The Newark, New Jersey, into which Marvin Hagler was born on May 23, 1954, was a city rife with political and moral decay. But Marvin's mother was a steady light in the dark.
His father left home early. He was basically raised by his mother, a very vibrant, energetic woman, Ida Mae. His family never really wanted for food or wanted for love. It was a family whose unity was forged and woven and created by the mother.
With the help of welfare and her earnings as a caterer and housekeeper, Ida Mae maintained a safe haven in an urban grid of violence, crime, and spiritual neglect. Early on, her son showed a characteristic that would become permanent.
He grew up basically as a loner. He lived a very remote, solitary existence. It was not safe to go outside.
Dominated by poverty, despair, and pent-up rage, Newark's African-American neighborhoods hit a flashpoint in the summer of 1967. The trouble began when a black cab driver was arrested and beaten by police.
The next thing you know, the store windows are getting broken. Molotov cocktails go. This was a city that had become a nightmare.
Bullets were flying everywhere. They could hear police running across the rooftops, cursing and screaming, looking for snipers, looking for looters.
During 6 days of rioting, 26 people were killed, more than 700 were injured, and nearly 1,500 were arrested.
There were nights when literally she and all the kids would be on the floor because they were afraid of bullets coming through the windows. And she just said, I got to get these kids out of here. This is not a place I'm going to raise them.
When relatives in Brockton, Massachusetts offered Ida Mae an escape, she moved her family there in 1969. But the factory town had few easy streets. After losing a sidewalk scuffle when he was 16, Hagler sought enlightenment at a boxing gym run by Pat and Goody Petronelli.
Sat down, quiet, very respectful. I says, you interested in learning how to fight? He says, yeah, man. He says, that's what I'm here for. I said, okay, let's get going.
We gloved him up, right? Put a headgear on him and a mouthpiece, threw him in a ring, and this guy belted him around a little bit, bloodied his nose, cut his lip, and then the kid just washed his face up right, and he just walked out the door, you know. So me and Goody, we were talking, and say, well, I guess that's the last we're going to see of that kid, right? Next night, he's back.
Right away, I liked what I saw. He seemed like he picked up a lot quicker than the other guys. Finally, I said to him, I says, boy, you're putting these punches together pretty good. I says, what's happening? He says, man, I've been practicing. I said, what do you mean you've been practicing? He said, these different punches you're showing me. When I go home, I look in the mirror in the bedroom, and I practice all those different punches.
He said many times that I wanted to be somebody. Didn't know what it was, but I wanted to be somebody. I didn't want to just be another run-of-the-mill guy, and boxing was the thing that was foremost on his mind.
Following his dream, Hagler lied about his age to qualify for amateur fights, then, over the next 2 years, won 50 of 52 bouts. At 18, he entered the National Golden Gloves Tournament. Among the contestants in a lighter division was Hagler's future nemesis.
Sugar Ray Leonard in '73 was the superstar in amateur boxing. Marvin Hagler was just one of many of the amateur champions, nothing special at all. He was just a basic, fundamental, determined kid.
The very first meeting, Leonard outdoes Marvin. He grabs the attention, he wins the Nationals, Marvin loses.
A month later in the National AAUs in Boston, fortunes were reversed. This time, Leonard lost his final bout, while Hagler tore up the 165-pound weight class and won the Outstanding Fighter Award for the tournament.
So Marvin gets a measure of revenge. This is just, they've known each other for a month, and they've already had this back and forth.
This became a crossroads. Do you wait 3 years for the Montreal Olympics, or do you go out and try and make some money now?
We sat down, he says, I want to turn pro. I said, why don't you keep fighting amateur and maybe we'll go for the Olympics? He said, no, he says, man, he says, I want to make some money.
While Leonard waited on the publicity and glamour that comes with an Olympic gold medal, Hagler rushed into a world run by hard cash, where winning wasn't necessarily everything. During the 3 years since he had turned pro in 1973, Marvin Hagler searched for recognition in the back streets of the professional boxing world. Sugar Ray Leonard, meanwhile, rode a superhighway to fame and fortune.
Marvin's fighting on undercards, and he's fighting through small arenas in New England, and his first fight he makes $50. Leonard, meanwhile, wins the Olympics, and he turns pro in February of 1977 and makes $40,000 for his first fight. At that point, that's more than Marvin's made in his entire career.
Ray Leonard was a star with that megawatt smile. He really succeeded Muhammad Ali as the superstar celebrity of boxing.
Handled by the relatively unknown Petronellis and regional promoters, Hagler had difficulty getting quality opportunities, despite going undefeated in his first 26 fights.
Joe Frazier always told me he had three things going against him. He was a southpaw, he was black, and he was good.
He was the easiest kind of guy to avoid. You know, you didn't want to fight him if you didn't have to, because he'd probably beat you. If you did beat him, you might not get that much bang for your buck, because he wasn't that well known.
Finally, Goody said, we are going to have to make our move to what he called the lion's den of middleweight fighters in America, which was the Spectrum in Philadelphia.
He lost to Bobby Watts, he lost to Willie Monroe. He had to go back to Philly one more time, and it was 3 strikes and you're out. If he loses to Cyclone Hart, it's Palookaville for Marvin.
He comes out aggressively now, and then comes up with a left, and he goes down. Eugene Cyclone Hart goes down to a left hand by Marvin Hagler.
He just kept working and working and working, figuring the end of the rainbow. The pot of gold is there at the end of the rainbow, and I'm going to get it.
Even though Hagler beat more ranked fighters than some champions had ever faced, a shot at the middleweight title continued to elude him.
He always sort of felt denied, and that really drove him to have a great distaste for a lot of people, Sugar Ray Leonard being the most obvious example.
The fact that my career continued to blossom and he was still being knocked back to the back of the bus, I think it became almost like a resentment, if you will.
You take the Olympians out of the mix, then Marvin did as well as anybody in that time. You couldn't get a title fight in those days with 15 fights. You had to have 35 or 40.
Hagler's loyalty to the Petronellis was regarded by many in boxing as the primary reason for his slow progress up the ladder.
The bottom line was that boxing was run like a cartel, and they refused to play ball with the cartel. At one point, Marvin's thinking about going out to the West Coast and finding a different manager. He decided to stay. It wasn't long after that that Marvin's attorney, Stephen Wainwright, enlisted political help.
I got 2 letters, one from Tip O'Neill, who was Speaker of the House, and the other from Senator Ted Kennedy, both of whom made it plain in their letters that if I didn't arrange for Marvin Hagler to fight for the middleweight championship, that there would be a congressional investigation.
Promoter Bob Arum, a boxing world kingpin, got the message and gave Hagler a title shot against Vito Anafermo. Although his 50th bout ended in a stalemate, Hagler had finally broken through. 10 months later, in September of 1980, he met a new middleweight champion, Alan Minter, in London, but not before the match was tainted by a misguided remark.
I says, well, no black man's going to take my title. But I was told to say it.
It was just a nasty atmosphere at Wembley to begin with. There was this horrible right-wing element, soccer hooligans, National Front people, all this stuff in the audience.
It was sad, and it was angry that people weren't right. You see them in their faces and kill him.
It says, Marvin, you know what you have